Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Twins Off Daily podcast, coming to you live from the good people at twinsdaily.com. I'm your host for today's episode, Sweet Lou Hennessy. It's been a long time since we've talked to you, Twins territory. It's been, eons? I don't know. The last time the Twins were playing, I feel like Cleet Thomas was out there in the outfield or something. It feels like it's been a long time, but we are so happy to be back with you on this, another off day for the Minnesota Twins. We're happy to be here to provide something for you to chew on while you wait for tomorrow's game at home. The Twins are coming back to Target Field. I'm here today with three of Twins Daily's finest. Let's start with Gregory T. Masterson. What's going on, man?
Hey, I've missed you guys. I missed you guys not being able to see my face. It's been too long. I've got two things to throw out. Number one, we're going to do a Manny Magoo update. Manny is tied for the most plate appearances in a season as a pinch hitter without a hit in baseball history. Awesome. I believe he's tied with Johnny Gomes at 32 plate appearances. Yesterday, if you missed it, he did get a hit in his first plate appearance after entering the game, but due to scoring reasons, he was not a pinch hitter. He was actually a center fielder because he was in the field first. Second thing I want to say is the fine folks at casino.ca. I don't know what that is, but apparently they did a study amongst 2,000 Major League Baseball fans, and the fans agreed that TC Bear is tied for the fourth worst mascot in Major League Baseball. And I'd just like to thank the fine folks at casino.ca, whatever that is, for bringing the truth to life, speaking truth to power, and asking the hard questions. It's about time somebody did.
Ooh, fourth highest, too high IMO. I don't know. I don't even know what to take.
Stomper, Raymond, and the Swinging Friar are the only three that are worse than TC Bear.
The Swinging Friar?
Swinging Friar? The whole thing.
Yeah, the Swinging Friar and Stomper is awesome. Don't let the kind of aura around the Oakland A's diminish the beauty that is Stomper. Come on now.
Well said. Speaking of Swinging Friars, let's move on down to our friend Cody Schoenman, back for another round here. What's going on, Cody?
It looks like .ca, the domain means .canada. So getting information from Canada, it looks like.
Throw it out.
I'll take it where I can get it.
Yeah, no, it's been especially long since I've been on the podcast. It's been like years. I think PJ Walters was promoted the last time I was on the show, I think.
Great pull.
Yeah, it's been too long, so I'm definitely happy to be back.
We're happy to have you back. You were dead to us for a while, but you have been resurrected. We are so happy to have you back, Cody. Making another triumphant return is Matt Braun. What's going on, Matt?
What's good? I think my last appearance, if I'm not remembering one, was after that doubleheader in Detroit. If you remember that, I think that was the first game where we were like, oh, Simeon Woods Richardson isn't terrible. That's nice.
Nice. And here we are, 22 starts later.
Look, hey, it's like poetry. It repeats, as the great George Lucas once said.
Is that how he said it?
Dude, he was saying a lot of things. It rhymes. That's
yes.
There we go.
Was that when
in poetry it repeats?
It repeats. That sounds like something he would say.
So does my Victrola when it starts skipping.
I think we found a name for this episode, and it's Poetry Repeats. So
Poetry Repeats.
Thank you for that, Matt Braun.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, we are so happy to have you all here with us to talk a little bit of Twins action, but let's jump on into our walk-off question that we are going to get to at the end of the episode. Whoa, jumping the gun on the music. The walk-off question here is, which AL Central rival player would you want to add to this year's Twins club? There are some extremely easy answers, but it would be fun to think about some of the kind of star players that are feasting on the Twins and imagine them in our own dugout. So we'll think about that. We'll chew on it, and we'll come back to it at the end of the episode. But for right now, let's move it on into our rapid recap. Okay, so like we said, it's been an awful long time since we got to record an episode. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It's been a fortnight, baby. So takeaways from going 2-2 against Cleveland in that pivotal 4-game series, 2-1 against the Kansas City Royals, 3-1 against the Texas Rangers, and salvaging 1 win on 2 losses against the San Diego Padres and their MLB worst mascot, I guess. What are we thinking? Who's hot? Who's not? Who's caught our eye? Cody, let's start with you. What have been some of your biggest takeaways from this, really long stretch, this big stand that the Twins have been on here?
Yeah, I know pitching as a whole has been a pretty big buzz topic, and we'll get into that more later.
Yep.
But I do want to compliment the Twins starting pitching over the stretch. I mean, given everything that's been going on, Ryan's hurt, he's out for the season. Dating way back, we never had DeSclafani. We've just kind of struggled with depth. I mean, during that Cleveland series, Varland had a pretty admirable start. Festa did really well. Bailey Ober, he's been great all season as long as he's not facing the Royals or pitching in the first inning. He's been like Cy Young worthy, arguably. I mean, so there's a lot, to be optimistic about there. Zebby was good against Kansas City. I don't know if I want to say struggled against San Diego. I mean, it was a little bit, but like his numbers were a bit, like inflated. I know he had like the unearned run that could have been worse, but with all that said, given everything that's working against the Twins and their rotation right now, I think they've done a very admirable job to, I think at this point, be 2.5 games back of Cleveland. And, to be having to throw guys out like Festa and SWR, who's still a pretty unproven product, and Zebby, and, Mixon, Varland, sprinkle him in there a little bit. So I've been really proud of the Twins starting rotation. I also want to give a quick shout out to Austin Martin, too. He's been incredible the last stretch. In the last 10 games, he has a 348 average. I mean, there's more, to the story than just average. But I think overall, playing center field the whole time Buxton has been out. Well, not, every game, but he's playing left, playing center, playing second base. He's hitting well. He's great on the base pass. Like, I've been really impressed by him. So I'm glad to see him take on a bigger role. And I think long-term, this is going to really benefit the Twins because you're finally getting, production out of the Brios trade. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about right now, even though some things there's some glaring holes on the roster.
Very well said, Cody. You know what? Based off that, I'm just going to say everything's rosy with the Twins. I think where everybody's in a really comfortable spot, and Twitter's certainly not aflame for any pitching decisions recently.
Yeah, the fan base loves the Twins and Rocco and Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, love it. Matt Braun, what do you think? Any takeaways on top of what Cody already started us off with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest story of the past month or so, to me, it's got to be that Christian Vasquez is Barry Bonds, man. I mean, it was getting to the point where my girlfriend was like, "Oh, that's the guy you hate." Whenever he would come up, and I said some very mean things about him. No one else heard them, fortunately. Okay. But I mean, the guy is just. It's like night and day. I think I saw someone said he went to Driveline during the trip to Arizona, and that just flipped a switch or something because he's been way better than Jeffers. He's been it was like an 850 OPS since the start of July, something like that, since the last I checked. And I mean, that's just really been the story, is that he's just, he got the walk-off home run against Hader. He had the big hit the other day, which turns out it didn't matter because Steven Okert stinks. But he's coming through. He's been doing a lot at the plate, and we already know what he can do with the gloves. I mean, just to get that is awesome. And also happy 34th birthday, I believe, to him today. I think they mentioned on the broadcast. So there you go. It's timely.
Extend Christian Vasquez ? No, but it's really funny how quickly he's kind of turned things around here. We were thinking about him as kind of this albatross contract a little bit, owing $10 million to him next year after a pretty brutal season last year and a really hard start to this season. He's really turned things around, and it's been great to see. Coming in game 2 against the San Diego Padres and getting that RBI, what was it, a double for him that gave them the lead, I think, at that point.
I think
that was huge.
Yeah, Jeffers was thrown out at third, so kind of complicated. Yeah, but it was a great, that was a great hit.
Interesting play. We can probably talk about that a little later, but good for Christian Vasquez, and hopefully he can keep it up. And who knows? I think Nick Nelson was the one who said that maybe he and Jeffers are going through some sort of Freaky Friday situation. I don't know about that, but we'll take whatever we can get from Christian Vasquez. Real quick though, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. If the playoffs start today, is he the frontline catcher here? Is he going to start most of the games like we saw Jeffers do last year? What do you think, Matt?
I'd say so. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, they've just in the playoffs, you tend to go with one guy, and if it's the hot bat, I mean, if you talk about like the length of their career, I think Jeffers is probably the better hitter, but Vasquez is hitting right now. What have you done for me lately? So yeah, you got to start him,
and probably a better defensive catcher.
Yeah, better defender.
Sure. So, okay, Gregg, what do we think? What are your thoughts over this long stretch that the Twins have been through here?
Listen, I'm hearing like this Ryan Jeffers slander, but I don't know if you guys haven't been watching or anything, but since we last met, he's been hitting better than Christian Vasquez. I don't know where you guys are getting your numbers from. But over the last 14 games, he has a 1.17 OPS. Vasquez has a 1.09 OPS coming into yesterday's game. It's gone down because he went 1 for 5 yesterday. But Jeffers is, at least over the last 2 weeks, he has been hitting better than Christian Vasquez. So might I say the Twins have the best catching tandem in baseball, at least over the last 2 weeks? I don't know.
Extend Ryan Jeffers? Question mark. Okay, I'm sorry, Gregg. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Just cut checks for catchers. There has never been a catcher signed long term that has ever backfired. Nobody has ever regretted signing a man whose like entire job is just destroying his own knees into his mid-30s. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, so I want to defend Jeffers there. Like he is obviously, it's only been a couple weeks and a lot of it has been kind of concentrated in this last week, but he might be turning a little bit of a corner. On the negative side, there's been some struggling bats that in the middle of the season have had really kind of propelled the Twins. When you're talking about guys like Willie Castro and Jose Miranda, even Trevor Larnach, Royce Lewis, Max Kepler, they're not looking great right now. It's very much kind of been offensively carried by like just a handful of guys over the last few weeks, like the catchers and Austin Martin. Carlos Santana is on another one of his hot spells. Matt Wallner is hitting the ball 400 feet at 115 miles an hour. But there are some lagging pieces behind. We kind of make a big deal out of the fact that basically you have to sit one of Max Kepler, Trevor Larnach, Wallner, Miranda, Lewis, or Santana. But right now, only a couple of them are hitting. But from a big picture perspective, I think that it's important to keep in mind that the Twins just played 14 games in 13 days.
Yeah.
And I do not care who you play. That is tough. That is really difficult. I don't care if you're playing the White Sox 14 times in 13 days. It's tough. Yeah. No, they did not, they didn't. It's not like they were playing like the big dogs of baseball over these last 2 weeks. But to come out a couple games over 500 in 14 games in 13 days, like that is impressive. Yeah, it's a little bit more impressive. They could have done better. They let some games fall by the wayside. It could have been a lot better, but to an extent, you kind of have to take what you can get when you're playing 14 games in 13 days.
That's a really good point. You brought up about half the lineup that is kind of going through a tough spell right now. And that's exacerbated by the fact that the stars are not playing right now. Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton both on the mend. Brooks Lee to a lesser extent, maybe because it's not like he was lighting it on fire, before he got hurt. But yeah, it's definitely taken a toll, and you can tell because there's been so many just close games. Like you said, props to them. 14 games in 13 days. That's going to take a toll. It's especially going to take a toll on the relief corps, which is going to be our big inning topic of the day. I know there's going to be a lot to talk about, but this bullpen, we've seen it start to kind of leak oil. So let's just go around. Let's talk about some general thoughts here. I'll start us off with this. This isn't even a bottom 5 Twins bullpen that I've seen in my lifetime since I started. So I think a lot of it gets exaggerated because the team is so good, but the kind of air's coming out of the tires here a little bit. There's reason to be concerned over some guys, no doubt about it. But to have 4 high leverage arms is a luxury, and you want them to have a little bit better beyond that. But having those top 4 guys in Duran, Jax, Sands, and Alcala, that's a really good place to start that a lot of teams would love to start at. Now it's about finding the pieces that can kind of complement them, because as we've seen in this tough stretch, they can't go 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, anything like that. So let's start with you, Cody. What are some of your thoughts on the struggling bullpen, at least as of late?
I'm really on the same page as you, Lou. Like, I can't pretend to be angry about it. Like, I'm not like passionately like upset. I know this has been a huge topic in Twins Twitter, and I'm assuming even outside of Twitter too, just like
Sure.
Everybody who watches the Twins. I think this has kind of been all encompassing. But I think the biggest point, which was what you noted, is that you have Duran, you have Jax. Jax is arguably, he hasn't been the best pitcher in baseball or best reliever in baseball, but he's been a top 5 reliever in the AL, top 10 in baseball for sure. He's been incredible this year. You have Alcala, who did blow up against Texas, but he's been a really nice story this year.
Yes.
And then you have Sands. Not many teams are able to develop a guy who was a stretch reliever the year before, a failed starter previously, into a high leverage arm that you can trust right away. I know left-hand reliever is an issue, but that being said, Thielbar has been really pretty solid lately. I mean, there's an argument where you could have used Thielbar over Okert in a situation in the 8th in game 2, and I probably would agree with that. But hindsight 2020. Richards, although he hasn't been, a good pickup, I mean, let's be completely honest. What were the expectations? He was the Blue Jays 7th reliever. He comes here. He's a Twins 7th reliever. If the Twins DFA him, it would be perfectly fine. I feel like he's put on this pedestal because he was acquired at the deadline. But you can honestly think of him in the same way. Like, there's not much difference between him or signing Diego Castillo to a minor league deal, or Gallegos from the Cardinals to a minor league deal. He just happens to be here right now. I don't think we need to put so much weight and so much stress on how he performs every single time he comes out of the bullpen. That's really irritated me. Like, I don't want to come off as like brash with this, but like, I feel like, and I probably have been consumed by certain echo chambers where I consume Twins media and Twins opinion on Twitter. But I feel like people are just really overblowing the effect that Richards has on the Twins bullpen. And I just think it's kind of gotten out of hand. But to wrap it up, my main point is that, like, I really do agree that, like, the Twins are in a favorable spot. And come playoff time, you can convert Festa to a reliever. You can make the argument to move Varland to the bullpen again. You could even use guys like, probably not Paddock, but you could maybe even use like Zebby in an extended role, if you want to, and he could get his velo up. So I think overall the Twins are in a good spot. You're not going to find yourself in a game where you need to use Okert in the 8th all the time, but I think it's been way over exaggerated. People are being, I know Gleeman likes to use the term pre-miserable, but people are just being very reactionary about this. And I think we need to take like 5 steps back and realize overall the Twins do have a good bullpen. I think according to FWAR, I think they have a top 10 bullpen in baseball right now. I don't know for sure, but I know it's up there. So overall, I think the Twins are in a favorable spot. And I don't know. I've just kind of become irritated by like how a lot of people are reacting right now.
It's so funny when people treat trade deadline acquisitions like it's a race. Like, what, you're telling me that Trevor Richards is better than Tanner Scott or any of these kind of really high-end relievers. It's like, I never said Trevor Richards was going to be better than those guys. It reminds me of the episode of The Office where they're playing the Christmas gift exchange, the Yankee swap episode. And he's like, what? This is supposed to be better than an iPod? And Dwight's like, I never said it was better than an iPod. That's kind of what the trade acquisition kind of argument reminds me of. Do I wish they would have gone out and got somebody better? Absolutely. But I don't think the trade deadline makes or breaks a competitor. So
yeah, and if I can add one more point too, if we really want to call a spade, like the Twins were not going to trade for a Flaherty, they were not going to trade for a Kikuchi. I mean, maybe, but like if you have been following the Twins, their payroll situation and the way the front office has had to act, like the front office isn't choosing to be stingy. The front office isn't choosing to not trade for players or sign players if they want to. They have constraints, like they have both hands tied behind their back. It's not their fault. If you want to put blame, it's towards ownership, but that story's kind of played out. I think you really just like need to like take a step back and understand that Richards, although he was a deadline acquisition, it's honestly more of like a minor league contract flyer guy. But
sure.
Yeah, that's the main point.
Well said. Matt Braun, anything to add to that?
Just a few things I wanted to say. I was intrigued by this, just because I don't know, it came across my mind. But 2024 Griffin Jacks is currently the second best relief F4 season by a Twin since 2010. Number one being 2019 Taylor Rogers, who I think about every day and I dream about, and who honestly it brings tears to me to think of him that year. It was so beautiful to watch him pitch. But anyways, yeah, pretty much. I think Cody said a lot of good things. I think I agree with most everything he says. I mean, show me a bullpen that anyone trusts. Maybe Cleveland. I think that's it. Hey, relievers give up runs. They blow games. It's going to happen. It's the nature of the position. I think someone, believe it or not, I saw a smart thing in the comment section once. I know. Hold your breath. Where he said the tough thing about relievers is that you basically have to grade them on a pass-fail, rather than on like a scale of A, B, C, so on and so forth. And yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's just if they screw up, they usually screw up in horrifying fashion, and there goes the game. But that's the nature of the position. So yeah, I think the Twins they're fine with their relievers. Yeah, it'd be nice to have Topa. Yeah, it'd be nice to have Brock Stewart. But I can almost certainly guarantee you there's like 15 other fan bases that hate their bullpen probably more than we do.
I love that you brought up Taylor Rogers in 2019 because he was so excellent, and he still brought so much angst on Twitter in his usage. And remember how much people fought over Taylor Rogers, who had like a 2.21 ERA or something, and would give up a couple squibs or something, and gave up a lead, and Twitter would be aflame. So.
Do you guys just remember like before they got Sergio Romo, and I think it was in like May, he had like 4 multi-inning outings, and just casually he's just like, I'm Goose Gossage now. Yeah, that just happened.
Well, he was supplementing like Mike Morin and Matt McGill. Do you remember that Mike Morin and Matt McGill during that summer like saved the Twins season? The bullpen was running on fumes. They cut Blake Parker. Ryan Harper doing Ryan Harper things. There was nobody knew what to do. Tyler Duffy comes out of nowhere. Matt McGill, Mike Morin, and then like a month later, both Morin and McGill are trash again, and they just cut them, and like nobody ever remembers it. But it was like June and July, they both had like a sub-2 ERA. Just amazing. I love bullpens.
Yeah.
It's like taking crack. It's crazy.
We'll take your word for it, Matt. Well, Greg, what do you think? Anything to add to that, both that last comment and our general discussion here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that people can be upset about, especially piling up just like these bad outings kind of back to back in quick succession. It is what's going to happen at the end of a 14 game and 13 day stretch. You are going to be taxed, especially because you have your A guys going so often because the Twins were winning so many games, not so many games, but they were winning games. They weren't getting blown out. You're going to be throwing your A bullpen. I do want to say, obviously the Twins are working with constraints. People can be upset about that as well. That's totally within people's purview. all of those things. I guess I have a little bit, gloomier outlook on the bullpen than maybe you guys do right now. Obviously, Jackson Duran, I feel just fine with both of them. I am okay with Jorge Alcala and Cole Sands in the roles that they're in right now. And once you get to into the playoffs, you do have you get to shorten up your bullpen. But I've got, I guess, two kind of points regarding that. After those four, it is just kind of what's the polite way to say a cluster F in the second half of that bullpen. You've got a couple of lefties who they've been trying to make fetch work with them all season to not ideal results with the 3-batter rule. You sometimes will run into situations where even if you do have a lefty, you really can't throw them if they can't get out righties. And both oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? Thielbar and I keep wanting to say Funderburk, but that's not his name.
Stephen Okert.
Thank you, guys. I can't believe you guys can't remember Stephen Okert's name.
Unbelievable. I've been trying.
Both of them struggle right now facing righties with the 3-batter minimum. That's not ideal. And we're trying to win games in the middle of the season. And so you do want to have kind of middle relievers that you can rely on. The last couple of spots in the pen right now are kind of getting jostled around. I do want to see, I want to see maybe a little bit more from Josh Winder. Unfortunately, we can't see that until the end of the month because he was sent down and he has to stay down for 15 days. Ronnie Henriquez looked okay. Right. Unless there's an injury. Ronnie Henriquez looked nice earlier this week, didn't look nice yesterday, and gave up that 2-run homer in the 8th. Such is life when you're talking about relievers, especially of that kind of ilk. I would like to see just a little bit more out of this bullpen during the regular season. And once we reach the playoffs, I'm going to assume that the Twins are in the playoffs in some regard. And your bullpen does get shortened, but the Twins are going to need more than 4 reliable arms with the starting pitching that they have right now. They are not going to get, outside of Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober, they are not going to get a long start in the playoffs. What they did last year, where they loaded up, they had a pretty nice bullpen. They added Chris Paddock, they added Louis Varland to that mix, and they had like a legit playoff bullpen so that Bailey Ober only had to throw 2 innings. Joe Ryan only had to throw 2 innings. Once you hit that point this season, I don't see Simeon Woods Richardson pitching deep into a playoff game, and he's your 3rd guy. Then you've got 4th, which is right now like either Festa or Matthews. Even if you do convert Matthews to the bullpen and Varland to the bullpen, I feel worse about that than I did last year. And I feel like you're going to get even less out of your starting pitchers this year. That's the thing that's kind of got my stomach in a knot. I feel okay about Louis Varland taking back a bullpen role. At this point, I would like to see him start that process now. Obviously, that saps them of starting pitching depth. But I'd be willing to stomach a few starts from Randy Dobnak and Caleb Bosley if that's what needs to happen. I'm willing to take that risk. Randy Dobnak did start a playoff game before. I don't know. That's kind of where I am right now. Obviously nobody feels good about their favorite team's bullpen. It's never going to happen. But gosh dang it, they could really use another arm or two that they just feel like comfortable throwing out there.
Yes. And while we're on that, why don't we go around real quick? Give me one name and just a very short explanation. Who's an internal option that intrigues you the most that could be added to this picture in the bullpen as they approach the playoffs? Gregg, let's start with you since you were already on a roll there. One name internally who you think could help.
Gosh, the super obvious answer is Louis Varland. If you're able to get him kicking up his fastball an extra couple of miles an hour, he can also probably pitch multiple innings. That's the most straightforward way to improve that bullpen.
That's a good one. And even if he's not pumping 99 with the fastball, his limited work that he's shown this year, he's been really good against the lineup for the first time through the order, even as a starter. Matt, who do you think? One internal option and a brief explanation.
Let's go crazy. Let's say Andrew Morris.
Wow.
Yeah, why not? I mean, the guy, he's basically doing the Zebby Matthews thing 2.0 at the moment. I mean, he did just have a clunker at St. Paul, but I mean, other than that, I mean, his ERA on the year was like 2 or something like that. And pitching at Wichita is just a nightmare. So, I mean, I'd give it to him. Why not? Let's see what they got.
If the stuff plays, it plays.
It plays, man.
Like,
that would be a fun twist. That would be a really fun twist to add yet another rookie pitcher to this mix here. Cody, what do we think? One internal option that could help.
Yeah, let's go with Scott Blewett. So he made his debut against the Royals a week ago now, and he looked pretty impressive. He made one appearance in a pretty low leverage role. I think they were ahead 8-3 at that point, but his splitter looked really good. His slider looked pretty effective. His fastball was fine, but he looked like he might, have something there. Like he has a pitch mix to work against maybe lefties and righties, and intriguing fastball at 96. So maybe he could add a little something towards the end of the year.
That's a good pick. I like that a whole heck of a lot. Before we keep moving on here,
what about you, Lou?
Ooh, internal for me. I really think that one of the starting rotation rookies is going to need to move to the bullpen or be shut down at some point, because all of them are going to be approaching their innings max here. Maybe someone like David Festo would play really well out of the bullpen, especially once it gets to the playoffs here. He's got, two really good non-fastball pitches, and if his fastball can play up at all, which I think we assume to be the case for a lot of starters as they move to a relief pitcher role, it's not a certainty, but if he was pumping, mid 90s, 95, 96, 97 with his really good changeup and pretty good slider, I think he could be a fun option.
That's kind of the game that we're playing right now with looking at this starting rotation. It's like somebody has to keep starting, but there is a long list of names, not long, but there are several names that are starting pitching candidates right now that you look at and you say, oh no, I think that would play out of the pen. But you still have to have somebody start every 5 days. And so that's the game that we're playing right now, that just the options feel endless. And obviously once you get to the playoffs, you can drop at least one of those guys out of the rotation. But we have a month left of this season that the Twins need to get through.
How's this for a very remote chance anything like this would happen? How about Joe Ryan? If he, I know that his recovery is probably going to take him through the end of September. At that point, how fast can he get ready to actually be a contributor, and how certain would you feel about that? What about Joe Ryan in the history of what we know about him has been conventional? Not a whole lot. So I think that, very remote chance. I'll put it at 1% chance. Imagine the crowd getting lit to Joe Ryan coming out to Fire on the Mountain, baby, coming into the playoffs for just
Randy
one
Johnson, Game 7 coming out of the pen.
Oh, let's go. Okay, now I'm buying into it. I'm going Joe Ryan.
He just cut his hair, though. That's I saw on Twitter today that Joe Ryan did cut his hair. He usually this is the most just irresponsible thing to throw out there.
Season's over.
His vibe is that he cuts his hair at the beginning of the season and he grows it out for the rest of the season. If he just cut his hair,
it's like Samson. It's Jover. It's Jover. I'm calling it.
Or counterpoint, he's now a new man. Right?
It's a new season. The season begins today.
It's like the pitching version of Kyle Schwarber, right? He's coming back.
Or even Joe Ryan the White, he's resurrected. Okay, well, I think
Ryan as he was meant to be.
I think we covered the bases there an awful lot on this bullpen picture. So I think we should move on to our next segment, which is Picks to Click. Right. So we all know how this works by now. We throw a category out there that we're going to keep track of until the next episode. And we're each going to make a pick for that category. And whoever is closest to the win will get a point on our wanted leaderboard here. So last episode, we
Lou, speak into the mic.
oh, I'm sorry. Last episode, our category that we decided to track was how many games back of Cleveland will the Twins be by this episode? So I said that the Twins would be tied with Cleveland. Gregg said they would be 5 games back, and Adam Friedman said that the Twins would be 2 games back. As of this episode, the Twins are currently 2.5 games back, which means Adam Friedman gets on the board. And so our all-time standings are as follows. Gregg has 6 points. Lou has 5. The field now has 6 points, including 1 from Matt Trueblood, 1 from Peter Labuza, 1 from Sherry, 1 from Matt Braun, 1 from Theo, and 1 from Adam. Did I count that right? Is that 6? Anyway, it doesn't matter. These points.
Yes.
Nick Nelson, Melissa Berman, and well, that can't be right. Cody's been on like 100 episodes, and he still has 0 points on picks to click.
Somebody must have gotten the math wrong.
Unbelievable. Okay,
I'm actually gonna start by living by my truth, and I've actually won 5 times, and
Okay.
you guys can tell me that I haven't.
Some alternative facts there.
Speak it into existence.
So the new picks that we are going to be selecting here today, we are trying to guess which upcoming opposing starting pitcher will the Twins lineup generate the most runs against. So who are they going to beat up the most out of the starting pitchers that are set to go against them in this quick 6-game homestand before our next episode, which will be next Thursday. So the starting pitchers between now and then that are scheduled to go against the Twins are Andre Palante, Sonny Gray, old friend, the Bulldog, Eric Fetty, Max Fried, Spencer Schwellenbach, or Chris Sale. So there's a good mix of some pretty well-known veterans and some kind of fresher names there. Let's start with Matt Braun. Who do you think the Twins are going to beat up the most out of that collection of starting pitchers?
Yeah, that's an interesting collection of names there. Some really fun guys there. But I think I'm going to go with Eric Fetty.
Okay.
Just because he's been kind of buns on the Cardinals, not going to lie. He hasn't been great. His last start was pretty brutal. So let's go with him. Wow, really dodged a bullet there. I think the poll ads really understood that he was fraudulent, and that's why they didn't pay up for him.
That very well might be. Cody, what do we think? Let's get you on the board. Who do you think the Twins are going to beat up on?
Yeah, I hope. I love the Twins lefty slaying lineup. They usually do pretty well. So I'm going to go with Max Fried. I think he's been struggling too since the All-Star break. So I'm going to go on a limb, say they get to the lefty, and go with Mr. Fried.
Okay. Gregg, what do we think?
So have the Twins historically gotten beat around by Chris Sale, or have they historically beaten up Chris Sale? I feel like that's a storyline, and I can't remember which way it goes. So
they've been really hot or cold. Either he dominates them or the Twins absolutely crush him. I think he's 11-6 against the Twins in his career with a 3.81 ERA in like 30 starts.
I'm going Chris Sale.
That's a good pick. As you could tell, I did some of the research on that.
Cheating.
For story's sake, you thought I just came up with those ERA figures. For the story, I think the Twins are going to beat up on Sonny Gray, and he's going to own them for like 5 innings, and he's going to come out there for the 6th, and they're going to lay like a 4 spot on him. So I do it for the story, Mr. Sonny Gray. I should have given him the quick
story.
Typical Rocco leaving him in a little too long.
I want Sonny Gray to like go 7 shutout and like Pablo Lopez get out of the game in the 3rd inning, give up 10 runs. The meltdown amongst Twins fans would be hilarious, and I will be so disappointed if I don't get to see that.
All right. Speaking of meltdowns, we are going to move on to our next segment, which is Gregory's Gripes. All right, you can always count on Gregg to have something grinding his gears. This is his therapy session to get it all off his chest. Gregg, what do you got for us tonight, my friend?
Oh man. So at some point in the very near future, this is going to be a story that comes out on Twins Daily. It's a little bit behind. I fell behind in my writing duties. So it would have been more relevant about a week ago. But Matt Braun, you're the history guy on here. The Minnesota Twins, the franchise, when did that start?
Like when they moved to Minnesota?
No, when did the franchise start?
Oh, like as the Senators. I think that was like 1901.
It was 1901.
Oh,
And can you explain that? How did the Twins start in 1901? I thought that they were established 1961.
So no, in fact, yes, they were a team formerly known as the Washington Senators. They had players such as, you may know him, Walter Johnson, the Freight Train, the Big Train, not Freight Train, Big Train. Won a World Series, I do believe, which I think you're getting at, so I'm not going to talk more about it. But then a certain enigmatic, quirky owner decided that Minneapolis was actually, or specifically Bloomington, I suppose, was a far fairer place to host a baseball team.
Don't look into why he said that.
Don't look into it. Do not look into it. Don't look into why Rod Carew then became an Angel. Do not look into this.
Don't look.
Don't look into any statues being torn down by the Minnesota Twins in the last few years.
You know what? Just forget all history. It's a losing effort.
It was always bad. We've always
my
been
degree
at
is
war with
worthless.
Okay, so the Twins retired the W, which is hilarious, to commemorate the Washington Senators, who won the World Series in 1994. I was a young 27-year-old at that time. It was the greatest year of my life. And maybe this is because I'm not a Minnesotan. I have never had like a permanent residency in Minnesota. So I'm not one of you. That might be why. But I am so frustrated by people who don't want to acknowledge the fact that this team existed before it got to Minnesota, or that, they have like a responsibility to recognize that. Like, I get that you don't have like some sort of like tie, like it's not Minnesota baseball. The 1901 to 1960 Washington Senators were not Minnesota baseball. They were Washington, D.C. baseball, but they came over to Minnesota. They brought along players like Harmon Killebrew. They brought along Zoilo. They brought along Batty, Allison, all of those guys who like played a huge part in the Twins capturing the pennant 5 years later. Those were all from Washington. It's the same team. And to just kind of disregard the history that came before the team moved to Minnesota is honestly, like, without hyperbole, it's disrespectful to the game. I get so frustrated by people who are like, oh, well, no, they're not Minnesotans. I don't care. Okay, listen. Okay. And this is what I wrote about. I probably flesh it out in nicer words. But if you take like the career of Walter Johnson, the Big Train, possibly the greatest pitcher of all time, depending on how you define it, he's number 2 in wins. He's number 9 in strikeouts. He's number 1 in career shutouts. He is number 3 or something like that in career games played. He's 2 and 4 in pitcher WAR all time. Like, this man, if you watch his form, if you watch him throw a baseball, if you watch video of him throwing a baseball, you watch that and you're like, oh my gosh, like with some tweaks, that dude could throw today. And that's not something you can say about every baseball player from the 1920s. He played his entire career for the Washington Senators. That organization still exists today as the Minnesota Twins. And the Minnesota Twins should celebrate that. If the Minnesota Twins do not celebrate the Washington Senator era of their history, they do not celebrate Walter Johnson. Who the hell will celebrate Walter Johnson at that point? Immediately after the Twins left DC, after the Senators stopped playing ball and the Twin Cities got the call, the Minnesota joined the American League. After that happened, a new program, a new organization started in Washington, D.C. called the Senators. Then they moved to Texas 10 years later. They became the Rangers. Okay, they have no claim to Walter Johnson. They have no claim. In 2004, the Montreal Expos relocated to Washington, D.C. They're not called the Senators. They're called the Nationals. Technically, the Senators were called the Nationals at different times before they moved to Minnesota. It was a weird time with the New York Highlanders, whatever. They should not be able to claim Walter Johnson. Maybe Washington, D.C. baseball fans can, but I will be in the dirt before I let the Montreal Expos be like, oh no, Walter Johnson, that's one of us. The Minnesota Twins owe it to baseball to celebrate the Washington Senators, to celebrate the Washington Senators' best player, potentially one of the top 5 players of all time in Walter Johnson. If they don't, who will? They owe it to baseball. I don't care if you as a fan are like, oh no, they're not from Minnesota. I do not care. If you don't care about that, you don't care about baseball, you hate baseball, and you're just a homer. I don't know what more to say. I'm sorry. I don't know why this gets me so frustrated, but Minnesota should celebrate the Senators, should celebrate Walter Johnson. Somebody has to, and Minnesota has that responsibility. My rant.
Extend Walter Johnson? Question mark. No, Greg, thank you very much for bringing that up. I'm glad you got that off your chest. I'd love to hear who agrees with you. That'd be really fun. So, dear listener, if you have any gripes that you would like to get off your chest, please hit us up on Twitter at TwinsOffDaily or at Gregg T. Masterson if you want to release some steam. But for right now, we're going to move on to the closer. Hey.
Why won't it stop?
Okay, so we are going to play blind lineups today. So how this works is I am going to go one by one, giving each of the members of the panel here a player, a former Twin or current Twin, and we are going to try to make a lineup without knowing who's coming next. So I'm going to give the name of a player. The panel member has to tell me where this player is going to hit in the lineup and what defensive position they're going to play. So I'm going to start with Greg, then move to Matt, then move to Cody. We're going to do one lineup at a time, and then at the end, we're going to see which lineup we think is better. So, Greg, let's start with you. We're going to go with the Shredder, Nick Punto.
Okay, just to clarify, you can see the lineup page,
yes.
right?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
perfect.
We can see it. We can see it on the stream for those that are watching on YouTube. Otherwise, we will post a picture with this on twinsdaily.com.
Okay, so you said Nick Punto.
Nick Punto. I like that you're already in the 3
these guys are all in their prime, correct?
Nick Punto in the 3-hole?
So we're talking about like 2006 Nick Punto, right? That's how we're doing this.
You can pick whichever version you want, as long while they're with the Twins.
I like to think that Nick Punto is eternal, but you know what?
I'm gonna put him at second base and bat him in the 2-hole.
In 7-hole?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, in the 7-hole.
Yep. That sounds like
oh, you know what? I should have said batting second and playing second, Nick Punto. This isn't a Gardy lineup.
Oh, well, we're moving on. Matt, your player is Ed Julian.
Uh-oh.
Oh, shit. Oh, we're already screwed. Okay, well, that really limits things. I guess Julian, God, he played some outfield in the minors, but God, I wouldn't do that to him. Let's just put him at first. And let's...
What's the pitcher's handedness?
Let's go lefty. Versus
He's a lefty
pitcher. Yep.
Oh, he's at 9th then. Sorry, buddy.
Okay. Probably smart.
Is it a good idea to have your first baseman hitting 9th? I forget.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a Gardy lineup too.
That's a Gardy lineup, yeah.
Okay.
You gotta have the speedy center fielder lead off. That's all I know.
Well, speaking of, Cody, your player is Byron Buxton.
Okay. We will have Buxton in center field, hitting in the 4-hole.
In the 4-hole, okay. Greg, your next player is Jason Kubel.
Jason Kubel. Oh, thank you for leaving DH open. Oh gosh, do we risk putting Jason Kubel in left field just in case we need another? No, Jason Kubel is going to hit. He's going to be the DH and bat. I'm going to go fifth.
Okay. Kubel, DH in the 5 hole. Matt, you're going with the legend himself, Ryan Domit.
Oh, dome it. Shout out Moses
Catch
Lake
him.
native. God, I'm
Right
not playing
field.
him at catcher. You know when Fangraphs fixed their defensive rating and then he just went straight negative? Funniest shit.
Literally the worst catcher of all time.
Literally all time. Unfortunately, someone before me took the DH spot.
Yeah.
So I'm
Happened
sorry whoever's pitching to this guy, but Ryan Domit's going to have to catch. And let's hit him 6th. Yeah, that's a conservative play, but let's do it. Center field. Oh, God, I hope not. There you go.
Okay, Ryan Domit. So the next one, Cody, this is where things are going to get kind of hairy. You get Joe Mauer.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so we'll put Mauer in left and we'll bat him in the 2 hole.
Okay, I think that's kind of your only option, you know,
Yeah.
in the outfield there.
Is there not a right field left?
No, not right field. Yeah.
That's the only other.
That's the
position.
thing. That's the thing. I don't think he played left field. Should we make that a rule? It has to be someplace they've actually. It's gonna.
Well,
be too
no,
hairy.
because
No,
we're
we're
gonna
leaving
get
it.
to a point. Yeah.
There's gonna be yeah.
We're leaving it. Left field, Mauer. I bet he would be good out there.
Yeah,
He'd be
Okay,
fun.
so back to Gregg. Your next one, maybe a little reprieve here. Willie Castro.
Oh, good. So what we've got shortstop, we've got third base, and we've got right field left. I don't know. I feel like the odds of there being another shortstop here that's better than Willie Castro defensively is pretty low.
Yeah, I go short.
And I'm gonna go shortstop, and I'm gonna bat him 1 because also we've got 2 names left.
Yeah.
The odds that somebody is a better leadoff hitter probably low. So
Sure.
Castro at short.
All right, Matt Braun.
Oh Lord.
Your next one, Harmon Killebrew.
Oh
Oh, good.
God.
First
I mean, give me the layup, why don't you? I'm putting him at third base, and he's hitting third, baby.
Okay,
Okay.
And-
Who's my right fielder?
Cody, your right fielder is the legend himself, La Tortuga Williams Astudillo.
He played there. He played there.
Yes, he did. He has played out there.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
so
shouldn't have been, but he was.
Yep.
All right, let's jump on into our next lineup. The opponents against this this collection of bruisers. So we're going to go back up to Gregg. You get Matt Tolbert.
Ooh, let's start with Cody since the last spot
Okay.
was an automatic. So let's
Okay,
start
sure. Cody, go ahead. Matt
Matt
Tolbert.
Tolbert. Gosh, I'm not super tapped in with this era. He was more of a second, third baseman, right?
Yeah, infielder. Yep.
Okay. Let's do Tolbert at second and bat him in the 9 hole.
Okay, probably smart. Let's go backwards then. Matt, your player is Carlos Correa.
Carlos Correa. All right. Wow. You're giving me the layups. I don't know what's happening here. Shortstop, hitting second. Let's not overthink this.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Gregg, you get Justin Morneau
Ooh, Justin Morneau.
against a lefty.
Oh gosh. Well, then what are we doing batting Mauer second? Oh.
It's hairy.
Morneau versus a lefty. I'm gonna bat him 5th.
First base. Yeah.
Play him at first. Probably smart.
First base, yeah.
Okay, back to Cody. You get Aaron Hicks.
Okay, let's put Hicks in center field in the 8 hole.
Okay. Not too bad. Matt, you get Miguel Sano, and you get a few different
Ooh.
Oh, should the
defensive
Twins
positions.
sign Miguel Sano?
Question mark?
Extend Miguel Sano.
Well, again, we're talking about right fielders who really shouldn't have been there. No, third base. Ooh, against a lefty, though. Let's do third base. Let's hit him clean up, baby.
Okay.
Let's get it.
Let's go. 2019 Sano. Let's go.
And you have him at third base, which makes things difficult for our next selection for Gregg, which is Joe Creedy,
Oh,
Twins legend.
We don't have a single infield spot left open, do we?
Doesn't
No,
look
it's
like it.
DH.
So Joe Creedy never played anywhere except third base and shortstop. And that was one. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to DH Joe Creedy and bat him in the 7 hole. No, this is prime Joe Creedy. Let's put him in the 6 hole.
I like to say, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Back down to Cody. You get Matt Wallner against the lefty. Yep.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, let's do right field 7 hole.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh,
Matt.
God. Oh God.
Oh no, we still don't have a catcher. Okay.
I'm scared.
All right, Matt. You get Torrey Hunter.
Hey, there we go.
Torrey Hunter. Okay.
Left.
Okay. So Torrey
So
Hunter
we got
playing
left field and catcher open.
So, yeah. So let's see what Torrey can do at catcher, babe. No. We got Torrey Hunter in left field. Let's hit him lead off. Why not? Screw it.
Okay, mess around a little bit here.
Let's mess around a little bit. I know Gardy would never, but
and we still need a catcher, and that is going to be the legend La Tortuga Williams Astudillo batting in the 3
There we go.
I think you guys
as God intended.
Okay,
Perfect.
so for our listeners, lineup 1 is Willie Castro at shortstop, Joe Mauer in left field.
I looked at that. I'm sorry, I need to interrupt. I looked at that, and for a second, I thought that was Juan Castro at shortstop.
No. All right, so leading off, Willie Castro at shortstop, batting second, Joe Mauer in left field, batting third, Harmon Killebrew at third base, batting cleanup, Byron Buxton in center field, as always brought to you by Marston. Batting in the 5 hole, Jason Kubel at DH. Batting 6th, Ryan Dolmet at catcher. Batting 7th, Nick Punto at second base. Batting 8th, Williams Astudillo and right field. And rounding it out in the 9 hole is Ed Julian at first base. Lineup number 2, leading off is Torrey Hunter in left field. Batting second is Carlos Correa at shortstop. Batting third is Astudillo at catcher. Cleanup is Miguel Sano at third base. Batting 5th is Justin Morneau at first base. Batting 6th is Joe Creedy at DH. Batting 7th is Matt Wallner in right field. Batting 8th in center field is Aaron Hicks. And batting 9th is Matt Tolbert at second base. So we are going to pose the question to our listeners. Which of these 2 lineups would win in a head-to-head matchup? So let us know what you think. We'll post the pictures on Twitter and on our story at twinsdaily.com. But let's move on into our post-game high fives, and let's talk about our walk-off question real quick. Which AL Central rival player would we want to add to this year's Twins club? I will start. I'm going to say Emmanuel Clase, the closer for the Cleveland Guardians. He's been the best reliever in baseball, you got to think. He would be an excellent complement to our relief corps. Cody, who do you think? Rival that you'd add to this Twins club?
Yeah, let's do Bobby Witt Jr., put him at short, and then move Correa to third, hypothetically. I mean, if you have a guy like Witt Jr., I think the Twins would be like a serious World Series contender, and that would totally change the landscape of the present and the future. So that would be amazing, really.
Hot take. MVP candidate would make the team better. Yeah, no, good pick. Easy layup. Matt Braun, who do we think?
Let's go with, I mean, those were my first 2 choices. So let's go with Cole Reagans, I think would be a good selection. I mean, dominant left-handed starting pitcher, strikeout stuff. I mean, what's not to like?
Lots of club control left over too.
Yeah.
Cheap club control, which we have come to find is very important. Gregg,
shout
AL
out
Central
Chris
rival.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the only pitcher I would take over Cole Reagans in the division. That's Tariq Skubal. Same reason, I would love to have him in a playoff rotation. That would free up some of the guys at the back of the rotation to move to the bullpen. 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Well said, my friend. Very well said. Let's do a quick look ahead at the schedule. The Twins come home starting on Friday with 3 against the St. Louis Cardinals and then 3 against the Atlanta Braves. So some interesting matchups here. Our next episode is going to be next Thursday, August 29th. We are very excited to come back and chat with you some more. We would love to do a mailbag call. If you have any mailbag questions for us, please send them our way. We would love to give you a shout out on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for joining us. And as always, everybody, stay sweet.
And no anthrax in the mailbag this time.
Please.
I hit the wrong button. This is the playoff music, I guess.
I guess.
Take it away, keyboard cat.
This is the Anthrax music.
Gregg, look at this.
Yeah, that's right. Fly the dub.